Welcome to the Longest Take podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Longest Take podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by Alaina Wis. Alaina is a multifaceted artist doing voiceover work. You may have heard her voice in commercials for Domino's Pizza, Toyota, United Airlines, Victoria's Secret, or you may have heard her voice show up in video games as a voice actress in projects such as the Starfield Robin Locke expansion DLC, Payday 2, Farlight 84, Eternal Return, and she has live acting roles in projects such as, she had a cameo in an episode of Chicago Med. She was a co-lead in the short film I directed, Connection at the End of the World. And she's also a singer. Her single Gemini actually just recently hit Spotify, so please check that out. Like I said, great performer, great actress, multifaceted, always doing something different. Please welcome Alaina to today's episode. What are your top 5 favorite movies?
So I always hate answering this question because I don't feel like my answer is impressive at all. But I'm a person that really is touched by nostalgia, and I find myself coming back to the same comfort movies again and again. So it's not that I'm saying these are the best movies ever made, but if I'm really being honest about my favorite movies in no particular order, first of all, I gotta say Tangled, my favorite Disney film, love it. I just think the story is so well executed. The music is great. The visuals are peak. It's just a perfect film. I love it. And it's a daily inspiration for me as a voice actor. As far as comedy, Napoleon Dynamite became a cult classic, but I was there since the beginning. I love it. I think it's so ridiculous. This is the video or the film that I always watch like with my best friends, and we speak along every line as if it's karaoke. Like it's just so classic and so stupidly awesome. And I would say also White Christmas. Got to get a movie musical in there. Big in my family. We love this film. We watch it every year while decorating the tree. And same thing, we know all the lines by heart. And I think just my musical theater soul loves to see those big, like, soundstage movie musicals back in the golden age. It's just so nice to see a wide shot and know exactly what's happening in the choreography and be able to see all of it. Now sometimes it's like you only get the mid shot and so you really can't like appreciate the choreography as much. So that's one of my absolute favorites as well. I feel like my bad day movie is The Princess Diaries. I always watch that when I'm feeling sad, and it just kind of helps me cry it out and then feel better. And yeah, love Anne Hathaway in that movie. And then, I don't know, I'm kind of caught between two, but I guess I'll say I really love Inception. I remember seeing it the first time and being like, wow, I've never seen a film do this with its storytelling. And it's just so topsy-turvy. And I love how it all unwinds and you kind of see how it was all set up from the beginning. And yeah, that one sticks with you for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially with Inception. It's kind of funny, even from the trailer side. A movie like Inception comes out and it changes the trajectory of Hollywood cinema in a way, because a bunch of movie trailers were doing the brrrr, that Hans Zimmer sounding deep synth and everything. But and then Nolan always hits it out of the park in my opinion.
Totally love it.
White Christmas, I'm pretty sure that's a movie that I've even watched in school. Not even
really?
like a film class. Maybe it was when I was a little younger, but I think at least a couple times I put that on for us for school.
No way. That's kind of cool. Did you have a musical theater history class like I did at university?
No. This is I think this is probably high school.
Wow.
Maybe even middle school. But you know what? I think I did have drama. It could have been in my drama class.
It's so classic.
Right.
So good. And every time I watch it, I appreciate something different. Like how fast Vera Ellen's foot can tap. It's crazy. So it's just again, great classic cinema and just super nostalgic, which I love.
Yeah, and since we don't see as many, musicals, at least in that sense, it's always cool going back to those classic, musical types where it feels like you're watching almost like a recording of a stage play, but
yeah, totally.
It marries that idea of the stage play in the movie, right? It brings them together, and I've always appreciated that about those types of movies.
I like that too as a viewer and as somebody with a musical theater background. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I think that that's a really successful way into what it might feel like to actually experience that if you were there in the room. Like watching that film, like you said, I feel like I am watching it live on stage. I don't feel so distracted by the cinematography that I'm sort of like, wait, where am I? What's going on? Is this a live performance? It just allows you to be totally immersed. And, modern movie musicals are taking a different approach and saying, what can we do in a film that we can't do on stage, which I think is also interesting. But I think sometimes that comes at the expense of really honoring the performer's work and seeing like how incredibly difficult it is at what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, I can see merit to both for sure.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know too, really quick, just when it comes to when they tape Broadway shows, for instance, or like with Hamilton getting a theatrical release, what are your thoughts on those? Do you appreciate when they bring those to the theater, just an actual recording of like literally of the stage play?
I love that, honestly. I was lucky enough to see the original Broadway cast of Hamilton before I moved out of the country. It was like one of my last things that I was like, I gotta do this before I go, because when I come back, they're not all gonna be together. And it was incredible in person. And so I'm so glad that other audiences who didn't get to be in that room, in the room where it happens, get to see it now with that pro shot and with the multicam setup. It's really cool. I mean, that's something you can't really see unless you actually can't have that experience of seeing it from all different angles in one single showing as an in-person audience member. So I definitely think that's cool. And of course, when they do those, they film it a few times and then they cut together the best moments or the best shots from each performance. So it kind of augments that in a way. It's not exactly a live performance because they get multiple takes, to comp together, but it is a really interesting kind of combo medium. So yeah, I'm all for that. I love that.
Yeah, and thinking about it now, that's how they do a lot of these concert videos, like the concert movies that they'll get released, like Taylor Swift's, for instance. I'm pretty sure I didn't even see that one, but yeah, they're taking segments of these live shows and they put them together. What's the best? And yeah,
sure.
It's pretty cool. It's the best way you could get people who aren't able to go to these performances. They get to capture a little bit of that magic in the theater, I think.
For sure. I'm getting like chills even thinking about it. I love it.
So here's a question I want to ask, just because you do voiceover work, and I don't often talk to people who do voices, especially for games, but what are your top 5 favorite video games?
Somebody just asked me this same question like 2 or 3 weeks ago on a gaming podcast. And so I'm tailoring my answer. My answer is slowly changing as I play more games. And I love talking about video games. It's like my favorite work to do. So again, there's some nostalgia, traps in here, but it's my truth and I'm living it. Okay. So I'm starting out with Kingdom Hearts. It was one of those games that I played as a kid and was like, whoa, this is amazing. Kind of introed me to the Final Fantasy world, but then had that Disney tie-in that I always loved growing up. And I mean, that story is just bonkers. There's so many Kingdom Hearts games out now. It's like, I need like a 3-hour crash course to be able to understand everything that's going on there, but I will buy every game they put out with no hesitation. I just love it. Coming in next, I would say Final Fantasy X. Again, I'm a sucker for a great story, great world building, interesting conflict, characters who are flawed and who have complexities, and that maybe you first meet them and you're like, wow, I hate that guy. And then you get to know him better and you're like, actually, that's kind of relatable and everybody's human and flawed. And also the romance, like I love it. I love high stakes. I love all that. I think it has all of that. It has amazing music. And those really long-form narrative games, there were a few games that came out that kind of laid the groundwork for that, and I think that was one of them. At least it was for me. Then I'm going to say Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. I said this on the other podcast too. Love it. And it's not that it planted a seed that I wanted to be a voice actor, but it was the first time that I was like, wow, like voice acting is really good in this game. And I just never paid attention to the acting in games before. But Nolan North in that role, I think, is just so iconic and so funny and also so layered. And I've definitely been inspired by his work in that whole series. But I think the second installment is my favorite. Then I'm going to say The Last of Us Part 2. Ooh, holy cow. That was a really subversive experience for me. I don't think I'd ever played a game that sort of forces me to do things I don't want to do, but it's, again, the stakes are so high and you have the controller and you have to make yourself walk through it. And that was just a really world-shaking experience for me playing that. And again, incredible performances in that. And then finally, this is a more recent addition to the list because I'm playing through it now. I'm almost done. I'm going to say Baldur's Gate 3. I'm a little late to the party on that one, but really enjoying the voice acting performances. I feel like, honestly, they're making me a better voice actor, really listening through to all the dialogue and the depth of the characters and all the different situations that they could get put in and how that brings out different sides of their personality. Just so much of the storytelling is left on the shoulders of the actors in this. And it's just incredible to see, not only to hear the performances, but to also see the nuance in the motion capture and just like how human it is. It's just really good. It's such a sprawling narrative. And again, it's interesting because you have to make really difficult choices and then just deal with it. And I find that sort of narrative really compelling because it stays with you when you leave the game to think about, what does this say about me that I just made this choice, So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, I don't think I got to the third act because I was playing with friends and then stuff came up, so we all just kind of like split from it. But
sure,
yeah, I love games that are so ambitious out there with like its choices and the almost infinite roads you could take. It feels like, right, to get through the story.
Absolutely.
But I'm so happy to hear you say The Last of Us Part 2. Because I remember there was all that controversy when it dropped. A lot of people did not like what direction they took, but I absolutely loved it when I first played it, and I defend that game to death because that's probably one of my favorites as well. It was an incredible experience.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was like nothing I had ever experienced before. Especially, I guess maybe skip ahead 30 seconds because I'm going to talk a little bit about plot if you haven't been watching the series or playing the games at all. But
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I'll give you a second. Okay, there's your second. It's gone. Yeah. But it's interesting to spend almost the first half of the game as one character and having little to no empathy for this other character who comes in and just like completely turns the whole thing upside down. And then you're forced to spend time with her and you're forced to get to know her and you're forced to see the humanity in this person that you really want to be mad at. And I think it's just such an interesting narrative because it's like, man, the more you spend time with somebody, the more you understand like they're more alike with you than they are different. And I just thought it was such an interesting way of showing that in a way that, there's no way you're not upset with Abby when you first meet her. But then after you have to spend a lot of time with her, you kind of get her, hopefully. So, and I think that's I'm a sucker for stories that take that approach. I don't know if you watched, we talked about this last time we were on set. Attack on Titan kind of does a similar thing.
Yeah.
I will not go into spoilers on that because I really think you just have to, anybody listening, just got to go through start to finish and just keep going, just stick with it. But same kind of idea there. Like when you can dehumanize someone, it's so easy to justify actions taken against them. But if you spend a little bit of time getting to know somebody, it's like, oh, right, they're just like me,
Right. And it was, I love, and I wish it was appreciated more, but, to take that route narratively, I think is just, I'm mad that it got the reception it did because I want more games to kind of do that. I want them to, push the boundaries a little bit as it pertains to setting up these narratives and these characters and what they do with them. Because, Naughty Dog, I think, has always been pushing that with just how they tell their stories and how they marry that like cinematic element to it, which I'm like a movie first type of guy, but I also like playing games. But when I do, I'm really doing it to like experience the story of the game.
Totally.
Like, even Elden Ring, like I love the lore and mythology in Elden Ring, but I'm a terrible Souls-like player. But I do what I can to cheese through the game just so I could experience some of those, strong elements. But with The Last of Us Part 2, a piece of it that sticks with me that goes with the whole understanding and how they flip the perspectives on their head is when you're Ellie and you get into the aquarium, a dog attacks you, you kill the dog right away, and you're like, okay, this is just a random dog. But I think in the beginning of Abby's mission at the football stadium or whatever, you interact with that dog and you play catch with that dog, and it's like,
man,
and the dog has a name and everything too, and it's like,
wow. See, that's the kind of detail, like, I didn't even catch that, and I've played it 2 or 3 times, and that's the kind of thing, that is really, it's purposeful, and it's there to humanize Abby, and to make you as a player kind of reckon with the choices that you're making. And yeah, I love those 2 characters as not even as foils, but of like as very similar characters that are just occupying the same world, and they have their own reasons for doing everything they did, but they're they're 2 sides of the same coin, and I think it's just such a beautiful narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. And sticking with games, I noticed that Eternal Return Black Survival was your earliest video game voice role. How did this come to be, and how did that affect your artistic trajectory? Was the plan always to just go for voice work in games, or did it just happen to turn out that way?
Yeah, like I said, I never planned to be a voice actor. I, went to school for musical theater, and I was always, that was kind of always my path. I was going to do the Broadway thing. I was just like poised to go straight to the top, and that was going to be, I was going to have a laser beam focus on that. And we'll get into it a little bit more later, but after I had lived abroad and worked full-time as a performer, I had come back to the States and just kind of wanted to really dig in as a full-time actor and not go back to having 4 different side jobs. And I had started my voice acting journey before I left, and then kind of took a little hiatus to be a full-time performer at Disney. And so I knew that was something I wanted to do. I remember kind of starting to dip my toes back into that world shortly after moving home and getting this audition. And I had no specific training in video game voice acting. I didn't know the expectations of the genre. I had played games all my life. I had been a trained actor. I had been a working professional actor, but I didn't have any specific voiceover training or any specific gaming training, anything like that, or how to do a gaming audition. So it really was just like, I happened to be the right fit for the role. I looked at the picture of the character. I gave it my best shot, what I thought she would sound like. They loved it. And fast forward, they ended up, porting that game over to a sequel. They brought me back for that. They've brought me back time and time again to do new outfits, new skins, promo videos for this character, and people love her. And it was just a very warm introduction to the world of video game voice acting, and just a very sentimental role for me.
Yeah, I love that. What platforms? Is this a mobile game, or is this available on different platforms?
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble here. I think it is PC. I'm not sure if it's mobile, but I do think that it's available on desktop PC, I want to say.
Okay. Does it have a Steam page? Is it available on Steam?
Honestly, I'm so bad at that. I would have to Google.
No worries. I was just curious because I've never checked it out, but obviously knowing that you're a part of it, it definitely, it intrigues me to, at least give it a try one day, There
is a Steam page. I'm looking at it now. Yes, indeed. You could play it
cool.
online on your desktop on Windows. So there you go.
Good to know. I definitely want to check that out. And when it comes to like stage acting or live action acting, there's a physicality to the performance, whether it's how you project when on stage or how you use your hands or facial expressions on camera, to convey an emotion or response. When you're recording vocals, do you utilize anything you picked up, or vice versa? Are there things that you've noticed you're doing when you're on camera or on stage that you might have done when just voice recording?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like to tell people that I think acting is, the hub of the wheel. And then you've got these different spokes. You've got voice acting, you've got screen acting, you have stage acting, you have motion capture and performance capture. You have all these different sort of languages or dialects of the same language, to use a different metaphor. But, the foundation of all of that is your really solid acting training. And then you can learn to tune it for these different things. And it absolutely does start to bleed into one another, as well as it does become distinct and you become more disciplined at understanding the differences between all of those. So I think they really make each other better, is the short answer. And absolutely, I use physicality in my voice acting. In fact, I have some coaches that's their primary way in. And I love working like that because for me, that helps get me out of my head. If I'm doing something with my hands, or I'm doing something with my eyebrows or my face, or I'm looking at a picture of the character and noticing the character has like one wonky eye and kind of like is talking out of the side of their mouth. And then I start doing that. And it just gets me out of my head and into the character and into my body. And I stop calculating so much. I stop planning. And that's where the magic happens, because it's more spontaneous and free. And it's just, who is this person? So absolutely. I'm a big advocate for taking all kinds of classes and building all kinds of different skill sets. And I feel like, to borrow another example, after 4 or 5 years of post-grad on-camera training, I feel like I'm a better theater actor as well. Sometimes I wonder why I was doing so much before. Not that it didn't work, but having a camera this far from your face really, it collects information at a level that you weren't aware that you were being observed before. And so you become more conscious of, how honest am I being right now? How much am I giving away? Do I need to convey this much information, or could I just convey, 1/3 of what I was doing before? Because that's probably what a real person would do. So anyway, I'm a sucker for technique. I'm such a student, and I love being immersed in all different dialects of the same language, we'll say.
Yeah, I love that. And when it comes to like auditioning for something like a voice role, are they just receiving the audio, or are you sending in a video as well? Like, how does that process look?
That's a really good question. And honestly, it depends. I would say 99% of the time, it's just the audio. So you really have to be able to tell the whole story with just your voice, because that's the gig. However, as you know, a lot of times in gaming, they are wanting you to be able to suit up and do the motion capture, the performance capture, the facial capture, whatever it may be. And in that case, it's very similar to an on-camera audition. You might also have an audio component, but more likely, they're going to have you say the lines on camera and just turn in a tape. And it might be a bit wider of a shot than you would turn in for an on-camera audition, like a TV audition. It might be like down to your knees rather than just a close-up or a chest shot or something like that. But, they're looking to see that you're fully embodied as this character. And it's in that way, it's extremely similar to something you'd see for TV film.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, I think. And yeah, that's something that, you especially see it when you get into more of the cinematic games like God of War or Last of Us. But, I think those performances are on the same level as like what you're seeing at the Oscars sometimes, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I'm so blown away by the realism that we're now getting in some of these, especially these really sprawling narrative games where they're 40, 50, 200, 300 hours. It's like, my gosh, like this is hyper realistic, and you become so attached to those characters because you're spending so much time with them, So the further we get into AI, and not to bring up AI on literally every podcast I'm on, but it's like the importance of human connection just becomes greater and greater as we get further and further from needing to rely on that. And so I just appreciate projects that really emphasize that human emotion and bringing in real people to draw upon their real human experiences. Because, gosh, if I'm going to spend 300 hours listening to a character talk, like I want it to be somebody who has a really rich lived experience,
Yeah, and that's something that I don't know if AI is ever going to be able to tap into. You see these Sora or OpenAI generated videos and stuff, and you can always tell because there's a lifelessness to it, and that goes with audio too. Mm-hmm. You could tell if it's an actual like voice actor or if it's just some AI generated thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they're going to be able to crack that code, because you would think that they would have done it already, right? But everything you see that's AI, you could tell. You're like, that feels lifeless, so it probably is.
Yeah, you can tell in a second or half a second. Like there's something within us that's just repulsed by that, and just like pushes it away and says, this isn't like us. This, oh, there's a really good idea for a film or a video game or something. I guess Detroit Become Human kind of already did that, but, something that makes a comment on, AI and how we instinctively are, something's not right here. Yeah, I think about that all the time. I can't tell you how many auditions I get where the reference track is, they'll say, this is a temp AI voice. We like XYZ about it, but we don't like ABC about it. Can you change that? Da, 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 da. So it's a part of our workflow now. It's a part of our world now. But yeah, I firmly believe in the power of human connection and human experience. And I don't think that, the only reason AI is even able to approximate that is because it's been, trained on our human lives and experiences. It can't do it without us. So I'm holding on to that.
Right. Yeah, it can only copy us.
Right.
In 2016, you moved to Hong Kong and performed in the show Mickey and the Wondrous Book for 2 years, living in an entirely different culture and country. What were some of the challenges you faced when starting out? How did you overcome those challenges? Since you've been back in the US, have you found yourself applying what you learned while overseas?
Wow. Yeah. There's so much there. That was such a wonderful and magical chapter of my life, first of all. And anybody who's known me for any length of time knows that working for Disney was the dream. For years, it was the dream. So it was a dream come true, getting out there and getting to embody these iconic characters that I had, again, such nostalgia for and such a dream that I had worked so many years for. It really felt like, that dream coming to fruition. It felt earned. It felt justified. And it was wonderful. In terms of adjusting, absolutely. There were little things like, where do I get pizza? And where do I get my hair dyed blonde out here? And all those things were addressed pretty quickly. And I started to feel really at home in Hong Kong in a way that I didn't even when I lived in Philadelphia for 4 years. I never really felt like that was my home. And pretty quickly in Hong Kong, I was like, I really dig it here. And that's why I ended up staying for 2 years. It was originally just supposed to be 6 months. So I just kept re-auditioning and kept extending and really, striving for more out there. In terms of challenges beyond that, I don't know if you I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but the recent interview that Emma Watson gave on can't remember the name of the podcast, where there's a clip going around that really hit home for me. And she's talking about how after she wrapped Harry Potter, she would go onto film sets with this sort of subconscious expectation that everybody was there to make friends. Everybody was there to be her friend. And also we're doing a job. But I'm here to build community, And it was really heartbreaking for her to find out that actually most people, for them, it's just a job. And they're able to separate that. And they have a whole other life outside of that. And they're not going to make any effort. Or sometimes they're going to sort of push against an effort to build community at work or to be your friend. And I definitely went through that at times, not all the time. But like I said, every 6 months, there would be a turnover. And some people would stay and some people would go, new people would come in, and you just don't know where you're going to fit in within that new batch of people. And yeah, that was really challenging. And I definitely made some really wonderful lifelong friends, and I'm very lucky that I did. But I realized kind of in hindsight that the reason I was there is for work. It is a job. It happened to be my dream, and I happened to meet great people, but having that expectation can be kind of hurtful, especially when you are in a foreign country where, the people that you spend all day, every day with at work, in your living place of, residence, on the way to work and from work, and probably at all your social outings are the same group of people. And if you don't vibe with them, you don't have a lot of time to go out and make new friends in a different community. It's just you're full-time employed, So that was tough. But I think carrying that forward, it's like now what I really value is building true community and making sure that my work is not my whole life. And that's a lot easier to do when I work from home. I make my own hours. I say yes to the projects I want to say yes to. I have a lot more control when I'm not in a corporate structure anymore. But yeah, just this year I've made a real effort to get involved in my community chorale. I sing in the chorale now. I take dance classes at the Park District. My partner and I take ballroom together. I take a Broadway style class by myself. I'm working on my music. I make sure to go and visit my family. That's the whole reason I live here, is to have that support system. And so you need those things to anchor you, especially when work life is topsy-turvy. You need to have things in your life that are constant and that are joyful and that are truly just there to bring you joy and to fulfill you, because work never will by itself. It just won't.
Yeah, and I think kind of, what you're saying, and even what Emma Watson was saying, I mean, that's something that, for my work, which is, in like the manufacturing industry, like, yeah, it's a similar thing. Some people are there just to work, some people want to try to build those connections in that community, but, it just, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But I think it's really great that you've been able to balance out things really well with this current schedule of yours, and it's absolutely important to have those anchors, like you said. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna be lost in the sauce, right? You're just nothing's gonna be holding you down, and yeah, I think that's great.
It also, not to spend too much time on this one question, but it also kind of makes you better at your job because you have something else to live for. It's not like, oh my God, like I messed up that song or I messed up that line or whatever, and now like my whole world is ruined because this was all I had to live for today. It's like, okay, there's another day. It's tomorrow. It's going to be fine. Like, people make mistakes. We move on. It's just, it helps you have like, I guess like a more well-rounded view of life when the only thing that you're focusing on and all of your friends and all of your coworkers aren't all the same pool,
Right. Absolutely. I think, yeah, I think there's like a sweet spot for it all. And once you're able to kind of not always master it, but if you're able to like dance within it, then it helps at least being content,
For
and
sure.
you're not miserable all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
How many live action roles have you had? And is there anything in particular you look for when finding a role? I ask specifically for live action because it's not as frequent as, say, any of your voice acting or stage acting even.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say really how many roles I've done because, as you probably know, I don't know, but maybe with some of your projects, a lot of things like the world never ends up seeing. I've been signed on or even filmed projects that, years later never show up. And so it's like, does that count? Like, I was there. I swear it happened. But like, it never made it off the cutting room floor. It didn't get funded, or it didn't, finish production or whatever it is. So it's really hard to say, but, film is often a passion project for me. I'm a full-time voice actor, and that is my primary source of stability and income. And as you mentioned, it takes one day to wrap a voiceover job. It doesn't take years to unless it's a video game, then, it takes time. But commercials move at the speed of light. They needed to be done yesterday. So it's much more cut and dry. It's a lot quicker a lot of the time. And that's my full-time hustle. So if I'm going to take on a film, it becomes doubly important that I really identify with that role or that project or that team, that there's something pulling me in that, oh, that's really captivating, or that's a challenge I'd like to try. And, payment doesn't really become as much of a consideration because I already have this other job. So for me, it's more, do I love this project? Because I'm going to take time off work to do it. So, it has to be something that I'm really drawn to. And I tend to work with the same people again and again because it just works. It's true. People like to work with their friends, just how it goes. I do the same thing with voice acting. If there's like, I'm working on a project and somebody, needs help casting it, I'll be like, I got somebody for you. I know somebody, and that also is one of the most rewarding parts of the job, is being able to kind of pull people in with you. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a case by case thing, but I try to keep film joyful for myself for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know that when it comes to film sets, I haven't had that much experience on any negativity on film sets. Luckily, the people I've worked with, and I was on a film set over the weekend too, and the vibe is always great. Everybody loves, they want to be there, and I think that's a huge distinction. But film, I feel like you'll since like voice acting is more solitary, you could do it from home, right? But when you're working on set, you're working with a bunch of people, and when that happens, there's always like that possibility of bad interactions, negativity, bad vibes on set. So it's I could see how it definitely takes you being like, okay, I really want to do this, to possibly have a bad time. I really want to do this. So that's the gamble, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my answer to this question evolves over time, and same with theater and even with voice acting. There are things that I would say no to now that I would have said yes to when I was starting out. But, currently for me with film, it's like the joy has got to be there. The vibes have to be there. It needs to be something that I have gratitude for and that I'm really excited about. Because like you said, like you really are, you're working as part of a team. And so if I have a bad experience working with a team, the next time they hit me up, I'm not likely to take time away from my job to do that, because for me, like the big thing that I'm gaining is that collaborative experience. And if that's not there, then shoot, why are we even doing this? Like it needs to be fun,
Yeah. Yep. I completely agree. And to marry it to my actual job again, I can understand not wanting to be friends at work, but when people show up somewhere with a chip on their shoulder, I'm always like, why did you even show up today? And that's the same with like on any set or anything. It's just like we don't have to be friends, but you don't have to be a dick. Right?
Yeah. But you do have to be a professional, right? Like you do have to do what you were expected to do in hopefully a non-hostile way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why even with famous filmmakers like Mike Flanagan, he's always working with like the same cast of people.
Right.
He's always got like the same musicians on his films, and probably even cinematographer, because when it works, it just works. Why change it up when you don't need to?
Especially if you're going for something that's similar to what you've done previously. It's like, I have the team in place. I know it's going to work, right? So why put yourself through that hassle? Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. Switching gears a little bit. And it's funny because with your resume, a lot of switching gears, because you're multifaceted.
Yes.
And it's great. But you recently released Gemini, a new single. How did the track itself come to be? And are we to expect like an album or something?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just pursuing creative endeavors as my soul calls to them. But a lot of people don't know, but I've been writing songs ever since I was a kid, since I was like 7 years old, and could operate a karaoke tape deck, and just writing in my journal and then recording it a cappella, and then I got GarageBand when I was like a teenager and started to learn to use that, learned to play the guitar. I was in piano lessons as a kid. So I have this whole other side of me that people who are familiar with my acting work might not know. But, I went to school for musical theater, guys. Like I did the whole, there's a lot of voice lessons involved in that. And songwriting has always been sort of my therapeutic outlet for anything that I'm going through. So Gemini was like a multi-year project accidentally. The song itself was written very quickly. I think I wrote it in a day, in a couple of hours. It all just like sort of inspiration struck and I wrote and there it was. And I recorded all of the instrumentation and all of the vocals on my own. And then I said, you know what? I'm so proud of this that if I'm gonna release this to the world, which I've never really done, I've kind of released demos before, but I've never really released something for streaming. I want it to be done at the highest level. Like I want it to be really reflective of how I do all of my work, which is very professional, very put together. I want it to be a reflection of the best work that I can do. So I was like, I need to get this produced. So I ended up finding a producer, actually just scrolling on Twitter. I found her. Her name's Marina Ryan. She's Juilliard educated, and she was awesome to work with. We worked on, we had a couple of reference tracks. She had a lot of great ideas for instrumentation in terms of like instrument voicing. Like maybe we tried this amp, maybe we try like this slightly different sound, maybe we pan the vocals this way or that way. And she did a great job. And at the same sort of time, this was 2 years ago, I had the concept fleshed out for the photo shoot for the cover, and I was really interested in the duality. The song is about kind of finding out that somebody, has kind of two sides of them, and that you've been seeing one side, but that there's this other side. And so I really wanted to explore that duplicitousness. And I came across this photographer who's in the Chicago area. His name is John Gress. And dude is a wizard with lighting. Like if you need anything that has really funky, cool, like gradient lighting, he first of all is the only one in the area who's SEO'd as being able to do this. But he's really, really fantastic at this. So the photo that's actually the cover photo, is one shot. It's not edited. He took that and then I had about 3 seconds to switch positions and then we finished taking the shot. So we did a lot of really cool things. This was my favorite, but we have a ton of photos that came out of that shoot that, if I do release more music, may be seen by the light of day. But I can't say for sure. I mean, I do have plenty of other songs. I am in talks with some more folks on the music side to try to take a look at getting more of this out there into the world. But I'm also working on a completely different musical side project that's a concept album that I'm really excited about. And it's a little bit more like, the golden age of Disney films, 90s Disney films, Alan Menken, also the animated film Anastasia. It's kind of in that realm, like more romantic, really catchy musical theater style with a pop twist. So I'm working on that as well, and that's why I say, I'm not going to say that I'll do a solo album while I'm also doing this concept album, so just a lot of plates that I'm spinning,
Right, and with that concept album, is it just writing stage, or have you already began recording some of the songs for it and everything?
Kind of both, because it's an album, and this is the first time that I've kind of conceptualized an entire album. Typically, I just write as things come to me, and then in my head, I'm like, well, this could maybe be an EP, but I don't know. This is there's a structure. It's based on a released work, and there's a structure that I'm filling in the gaps as a composer and as a singer-songwriter. Sometimes there's so many complex ideas that after I finish writing music and lyrics, I need to start recording so I don't forget, because a voice memo on my phone is not going to capture everything in my head. So I'm kind of doing it concurrently. I'm conceptualizing about 14 songs, including an overture. And I believe I've completed writing 11 or 12 of them. And then I have a couple others that are needing some extra work. But this has been a year and a half that I've been working on this. And I have not shared much about it yet. But people have been so nice about Gemini that I'm kind of encouraged to maybe share some work in progress snippets as I work.
Right, yeah, definitely. I mean, my first impression on Gemini was okay, I want more songs from you. I want you to do more of this.
There's more. I'm just, I'm always doing too much. So
yeah,
I just
you
need
said,
to
a
set
lot of
aside
spinning
time.
plates.
Yes.
And with Gemini, so when did you actually record it with this producer? When did all that take place?
That was 2 years ago. So I had already recorded everything. And I sent the stems over to the producer, but I did all of the recording on my end. And we worked completely remotely because at that time she was based in Australia. And so we were just sending files back and forth. We did a couple of Zoom calls so I could hear her engineering in real time. And then we just worked over email. But yeah, I composed and recorded all of the instrumentation except for the electric guitar that's on the track. That is actually my fiance playing live. And then he sent those files to me and then I interpolated them into the song. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's great to hear how much you had to do with the instrumentation of it. So why did it take so long for it to come out then?
Because I'm a perfectionist and because I get too distracted by other things. So originally we had finished the track and I was like, well, there's maybe a couple more things that I might want to tweak. So I'm just going to put on the back burner for now. And then I got really into, pursuing screen acting and things in the VO world really blew up. And that took over a lot of my time. And I was taking a lot of classes and traveling. And there was just so much that I completely forgot about it. And then I just sort of had this moment a couple weeks ago where I just energetically felt, you know what? I'm getting this message right now that now is the time. Now is the time to rip the Band-Aid off, all the things that I've been putting off, all the conversations I've been avoiding, all of the classes I have been too scared to sign up for or whatever it is. It's time. It's actually long overdue. Now's the time. And I was like, screw it. I'm hitting publish. Here we go. And and everybody's been super warm and receptive to it. And so there was actually nothing to be afraid of. It was ready to go for 2 years. And I just was second guessing myself. So, that's the reason.
Yeah. And that's the burden of being an artist is this perfectionist mindset. And I'm sure there's so many people out there, even when I'm writing something too, that if I don't just drop it or release it or do something with it, then it's going to be lost. You just sometimes have to just say, it's going out there. We're doing it.
Yes. And I kind of had competing limiting beliefs that were stopping me. One of which was, well, what if I release this, like my work in progress or whatever, and then somebody, like, what if like Dua Lipa sees this song and like covers it, and then everybody thinks it's her song, and then like I get obscured. That was my fear that kind of stopped me for a long time. But then I realized another fear that was equally paralyzing and terrifying, which is that there's only 12 notes in music. What if somebody else comes up with this song or something very similar to this song, and then nobody knows that 4 years ago I wrote it first? So it's like, just put it out there. Just put it out there, like, and stop judging yourself so harshly because, yeah, sure, there's going to be one or two naysayers or people who like just hate everything to be contrarian just because that's how they are. But mostly it's going to be your friends, and they're going to be like, hey man, this is awesome. And that's who I care about. That I'm not going to take criticism from somebody I wouldn't take advice from, right? So what matters to me is like my friends have a bop to jam along to with the windows down, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the best thing you could do is just appreciate those things about it. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
When it comes to, singing, voice acting, live acting, which is the most rewarding and which has been the most challenging?
So they're all equally, challenging and rewarding, just in different ways. And none of them, for me, is like a complete picture because there are things that I miss about the other art forms when I'm not doing them. So I'll say, voice acting, easy one. It offers the financial support and the flexibility that I always wanted as an artist. I'm incredibly lucky to be a full-time actor and making my own hours, working from home. All of that has completely turned my quality of life upside down and has been great. But we talked about this a little bit earlier. It also can be very isolating. You don't get that collaborative experience like you do in a rehearsal room or on a film set. Like, sure, you get live directed sessions, but typically most of the time there's already a very specific idea that's already been fleshed out. And it's actually kind of a luxury if you get to really dig into what is your potential as an actor. More often than not, it's like, well, this is our vision and you need to just make it happen. And so I rarely get that same feeling from voice acting that I do from performing. And when it comes to screen acting, yeah, you have that collaborative aspect. You have that, everybody's bought in, ideally, on a set, right? But you might shoot a whole project and never see it. And it's like, oh man, like, sure, maybe I got paid or whatever, but like, I really wanted to see how it came together, and you might never get to see it, or you might get to see it, but like it's not out, so you can't share it, and you can't use it as a marketing tool, and you can't show it to your agents or whatever. So there's that challenge too, because it's incredibly hard to get funding, and people are very protective of their ideas and festival season, all this stuff. So that can be tough. It's also hard to make your own work because it's so expensive and so prohibitive in that way. But it's like super collaborative and fun, and it's a different language, and it's cool. And then with theater, that was my first love, and I would say like still nothing really makes me feel like alive and feel that rush of adrenaline like I feel when I'm doing a live performance side by side with other actors, and we're building this thing together, and it just feels like, oh my gosh, someone let us do this. That's crazy. Like, they really let us get up here and do this. And there's always that kind of little bit scary, little bit exciting degree of unpredictability, because you're like, there it is, the moment's gone, like that just happened and we have to move on, and everybody saw it, and it's magic. Like, there's nothing like that. But it's hugely demanding on your body and on your time and on your finances. And I tried to do theater at the same time as other things, and it's just very difficult. It can be done, but it either looks like you're working 9 to 5, doing your voiceover and running your own business, and then going to rehearsal late at night and working nights and weekends. Or it's like you're doing a full-time contract at a theater, and that's your 9 to 5, and then you're going home and doing auditions at midnight. So it's like, and then, you've got your Mondays off, but you're doing live sessions on Monday. So it's like, it's hard to do all of that at once. You almost need to take a sabbatical from one thing to go all in on the other thing. So that's why I like doing all of them, because it's like, they all have their ups and downs, and sometimes you need a break from one to get the fulfillment that comes from the other.
Yeah, and I think, you explained it beautifully as to why people do things simultaneously, why people are like, I like doing all these things, I'm going to do all these things, because, there's it's about time management, I think, at the end of the day, to make it work, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of fitting it into your daily life. I think that's one of those other sweet spots that I talk about.
I think, and also just checking in and seeing, like, what do I need right now? Like, am I in a place where I need to save some money? I need to make some money, so I'm going to focus on commercial projects right now because that's what I need to do. Or is it like, man, I am creatively dehydrated. I need to do something for my soul right now because I'm so depressed, or I'm like so uninspired or apathetic. What is that need? And I'm constantly reevaluating and thinking what needs to shift so that I feel like I'm contributing meaningfully to my work. A big realization I had last year was in one of these periods or it was 2 years ago, I think, in one of these periods of doubt and missing theater, but realizing that puzzle piece doesn't fit in the way it used to, was sort of realizing that what gives my work meaning is seeing that it matters to other people. And with voiceover, you have that removed because you don't often get to see other people's reactions to what you're doing. If, like, your director laughs, they're probably muted and you didn't hear it. So you don't know that, like, they laughed and, good job, you were funny, or whatever it was. So I think that's why I'm constantly sending my commercials to my family going, watch this, I did this, tell me how good I did. But yeah, that's why I'm always checking in and seeing where are opportunities to connect with people, because that's what makes me feel like my work matters.
Yeah, it's about that connection at the end of the day, I think. And that's what art is, right? Art, I think any type of art that you consume or create, its purpose almost is to either connect directly with somebody or connect people together. And I think it kind of all goes back to that to some extent.
For sure. Yeah.
So I like to end these interviews the same way I like to start them. And that's with the same question that I try to give to everybody. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully still doing much of what I'm doing now. I'm realizing this interview has big Gemini energy in terms of having 47 different plates spinning. I'm not a Gemini. But, stream my single, I guess. But hopefully still doing all these different crafts and all these different practices, but hopefully, leaping towards bigger and more exciting things. What about network animation? What about feature animated films? What about continuing at this AAA gaming level, but doing that motion capture, that performance capture to really marry the screen acting, the voiceover, and the theater all into the same performance? Like, that's something I'm so hungry to try. I think that would be really cool. And, continuing to be able to work and sustain myself as a full-time actor in the age of AI. I'm hopeful about that. I think that's possible. And I basically, have internalized this belief that you can have it all. You can be with your support system and be working on some of the biggest stuff out in LA. Yes, you can. And if there aren't that many people doing that, then be one of the first, but don't be the first person to cancel yourself out. Give it your best shot. And that's kind of the road I'm trying to pave right now. So I can't wait to see, 5 years from now, listening back on this, let's see if I manifested that, right?
Yeah, I'll set up an interview 5 years from now, kind of see where we're at.
Great. I love it. A follow-up before and after.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Alaina. It was great talking with you. When I worked with you in the past, it was great, and I'm looking forward to us working again soon.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be great. But thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And yeah, this has been a really creatively fulfilling conversation. I'm feeling inspired to continue the rest of my day.
Awesome.
Awesome.